Hey guys, Jan here for Functional Body Unit. Thanks for tuning in again. First of all, thank you so much for the recent support and feedback we get from you on our videos on our channel here. To involve you even more and to help you even more on your mobility journey or your strength journey, we want to ask you if with what you struggle the most with when it comes to mobility training, or the questions you have, everything that is unclear and blurry in your head when it comes to strength or mobility training. We want to do a video about it and help you even more. So write it down in the comments below with which you struggle the most with, and we highly consider making a big video about each topic that you post down below. So let's jump straight into the video and make you more mobile.
Okay, we want to clarify one thing first, and that is, what is mobility training? We have a video that covers this basically, but we want to keep it really short. So when it comes to mobility training is about the joint and not the muscle. It's really simplified, but that's an easy way to explain it. So when we look at flexibility, then we only look at basically the lengthening side of a joint or of the muscle basically. So when we just use the hamstring here, so when we try to get more flexible or stretch, then we only work on the opening side of the joint or the lengthened side of a muscle, in this case the hamstring. But what mobility training does is we want to work on the closing side, which is basically the quad, or like the upper part of the leg in this part, when we go for more hip flexion. So that's why we call it hip flexion, because you use your hip flexors to get into more active range of motion, while simultaneously lengthening the hamstring opening side. So as he folds forward, you get the opening side back here and the closing side right here. That's basically what we're looking for in mobility training. Working on the opening and the closing side of a joint. Okay, so we know it's about the joint and not about the muscle basically. And what often happens is when someone wants to get really flexible or bendy or increase range of motion, they only focus on the opening side. So the hamstring. Oh, my hamstring is so tight, I want to stretch out more, I need to stretch out more, I need to foam roll in order to just get that muscle to loosen up and to increase my range of motion, aka get more flexible. But what we actually need is strength in that range of motion, or strength it out in range. So it's not enough to just lengthen that muscle or to just open up more range. We actually need control, strength, in all of our range of motion. So if we only look for the passive flexibility, we are missing a point, and that is strengthening the closing side, which is going to help us move through a range of motion. So we have more strength, we have more control, we have more movement variability, so we can move through a greater range of motion, and we can move pain-free, which is really important for us, because you don't want to move through pain. And also, you're actually able to move through a range of motion if you only have the passive control, if you only have the passive flexibility, you will not be able to move through this range actively, and your life is an active endeavor.
We already made this clear in our previous video, as she said before, in flexibility versus mobility, where we actually say there's nothing wrong about only being flexible, right? That's not the point. But people often get this misunderstanding that mobility training is actually only stretching and only passive flexibility, right? Which is not. And we want to clarify and get you a deeper knowledge today in this video about what mobility training really is. It's, of course, has its flexibility, its passive side, which is not bad. We first have to build the passive range of motion, but then we have to actively strengthen both the closing and the opening side to gain strength in that range of motion and to be safe in that position, right?
Which brings us basically to our second point.
Yes.
Which is when we look at the hamstring and we want to increase our hamstring flexibility, people only focus on increasing hamstring flexibility. What about hamstring strength?
Yes. So when it comes to strength of the hamstring, we first have to think about, okay, what is the function of the muscle? The hamstring is important for hip extension, so the hip joint is involved, of course, and the knee joint is involved because the hamstring has the function of knee flexion. So we want to get this overall performance, right, and the overall benefit of mobility training. And mobility training is strengthen our joints, right? So when we look at the hamstring, we first talked about the lengthening side of the hamstring. That's mainly the hip where we do that, right?
Yeah, so we basically go into hip flexion. So we work on the strength of the hip flexors while lengthening the hamstring.
Yes, and now what we look at is the knee, right? So we want to have both functions very strong and both joints very strong. We don't want to have imbalances, right? So we also have, in easy words, not only the lengthening side of the muscle, but also when we go here in the prone position, the shortening side of the muscle when we go in knee flexion, which is the second function of the hamstring. So in order to train the overall performance of our hamstrings and our hip and knee joints, we have to train both the shortening side of the muscle, in this case it's the knee flexion, and the lengthening side of the muscle, which is in that case hip flexion, right? Straight leg hip flexion. And people often get confused with these. You can go back. People often get confused by only thinking about certain poses or certain things they hear or see on social media, right? And they just do the hamstring stretches or just do the foam roll or only this exercise which a certain trainer gave them or thought it would be fine. But we want to talk and focus about the overall health perspective and give you deeper knowledge about what mobility training really is. Let's sum this up, right? And with all this information, what you get from this is you have more access to more muscle tissue if you train your end ranges of motion and strengthen them.
So basically better motor control.
Better motor control. That means the more access means you have more performance output, more strength output in your exercises that you do.
And not only in mobility training, but that spreads to all your training, whether you're a gymnast, whether you're a soccer player, a weightlifter, all of this spreads to all of your strength output.
And it not only stops when it comes to sports, also your daily life, right? It makes your daily life easier, you move better, and
pain-free.
Yeah, pain-free. And we want you to encourage to get more mobile and do more mobility training, or get more mobility training into your training routine and into your daily life. That's what we're here for. We want to help you to move better and
not only for the sake of getting a middle split,
yes,
but for the sake of having a healthy body.
Yes. That being said, check out our pancake series, our online Kinstretch pancake series. It's about getting a deeper and better pancake, right? But we also have highly informative and basic fundamental mobility stuff there, which you first have to do before you start with the actual series.
We also have an overhead mobility.
Yes,
series.
we also have an overhead mobility series. So check that out. We want to look and focus on the overall health perspective and longevity of our joint and of our body, that we can do the stuff we love and the sports we love, as long as we live. So with that being said, hope this was not too long for you. Hope you had fun and learned something, and have a great day. See you soon.